On the night I told my son I had kidney failure, I sat on the edge of my bed in the converted storage room they called my bedroom, and I listened through the wall as his wife said, "She's going to need dialysis, Terence. Dialysis. Do you understand what that costs? What that looks like? Get your mother out of this house before she becomes our problem forever. I'm Dolores Moreau. People call me Dee. I'm 64 years old and I've lived in this country since I was 9, when my parents brought me from Port-au-Prince to Montreal in the winter of 1970. I didn't cry that night. I didn't bang on the wall. I didn't do anything dramatic at all. I reached under my mattress, pulled out a folded bank statement from RBC Dominion Securities dated March 1st, 2025, and looked at the number I already knew by heart, 9,814.4626. Then I opened my laptop and searched Sotheby's International Realty Toronto, waterfront properties, cash purchase only. If you're listening from somewhere far away, leave your city in the comments. I want to see how far this reaches, and please stay with me to the end, because what my daughter-in-law didn't know, what my own son didn't know, was that the sick old woman they wanted gone had built and sold more real estate than they'd ever see in 10 lifetimes. Let me start from the beginning. The diagnosis came from Dr. Aluskanadeyemi at Toronto Western Hospital on a grey Tuesday in March 2025. Stage 3 chronic kidney disease. He was a careful man, mid-40s, Nigerian-born, the kind of doctor who holds your gaze when he delivers hard news. Mrs. Moreau, with proper management, medication, dietary changes, and regular monitoring, we're looking at decades. This isn't a death sentence. Many patients live full, active lives well into their 80s and beyond. He'd gone through everything: the EGFR numbers, the creatinine levels, the treatment plan, medication twice daily, low sodium, low potassium diet, no alcohol, regular blood work at Life Labs every 8 weeks, possible dialysis down the road, but only if things progressed, which they might not with proper care. I'd driven home along the Gardiner Expressway in my 2018 Honda CR-V, the medical folder sitting on the passenger seat, Lake Ontario grey and flat to my left. My late husband, Winston, used to say the lake looked different depending on what you were carrying inside. That day it looked like tin. Winston had been gone 6 years that December. 6 years of learning to cook for one, of shoveling the driveway alone in February, of watching Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday, with nobody to argue about the Leafs with. Winston and I had built Moreau Property Holdings from nothing. We'd started in 1991 with a rundown triplex on Dufferin Street in the West End of Toronto that nobody wanted. Paid $118,000 for it, with every cent we had, plus a loan from my cousin Hazel that we paid back within 2 years. We'd renovated it ourselves, rented all 3 units, saved every dollar, and bought another building, then another. By the time Winston had his stroke in December 2019, we owned 31 rental units across Toronto, Scarborough, and Brampton. 31 units generating monthly income that had grown steadily for 3 decades, as Toronto real estate became some of the most valuable in the world. I'd sold the entire portfolio in 2021 to a numbered Ontario corporation, backed by a pension fund. The sale price was $11.2 million. After capital gains tax, legal fees, and the accountant's bill, I'd netted $7.6 million. I'd invested it through RBC Dominion Securities. My advisor, Nigel Fontaine, a meticulous Trinidadian man who'd been managing money in Bay Street firms for 25 years, had built me a diversified portfolio: Canadian government bonds, blue-chip dividend stocks, some U.S. index funds, a small position in Canadian REITs which felt fitting. With compound growth and dividends reinvested over 4 years, the portfolio had grown to just under $9.9 million. But my son Terence didn't know any of this. Nobody knew except me, Nigel, and my lawyer, Jacqueline Osei. As far as Terence and his wife Keisha knew, I'd sold the rental business for enough to retire modestly. They thought my savings were running thin, which was why I'd moved in with them 2.5 years ago when I downsized. They thought the $2,800 I handed them in cash every month was stretching my limited pension and whatever I'd saved. A contribution from a mother who couldn't afford to live on her own in this city. They had no idea those payments were a test. I pulled into the driveway at 74 Willowcrest Drive in North York, the house I'd helped Terence and Keisha buy 3 years ago with a $90,000 gift toward the down payment. It was a decent place. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, double garage, on a quiet crescent near Finch Avenue. Worth about $1.3 million now with the way the market had gone. My $90,000 had made this house possible. Without it, they wouldn't have qualified for the mortgage. But nobody mentioned that anymore. Inside, my granddaughter Zara, 9 years old, was doing homework at the kitchen table. My grandson Miles, 6, was building something with Lego on the living room floor. Grandma. Miles ran to me and grabbed my legs. He had my eyes, dark and deep, and Winston's round face. Zara won't let me watch Bluey. You have homework too, Zara said without looking up. Precise, that child. Everything organized, labeled, controlled, just like her mother. Terence came downstairs in joggers and a hoodie, 41 years old. He worked as a project manager at a tech company in the Mares building downtown. Good salary, probably $115,000, but they spent like people making twice that. The SUV lease, the kids' private school tuition, Keisha's subscription boxes, the annual trip to Turks and Caicos they'd been putting on the line of credit. Hey, Mom, how'd the appointment go? I held up the folder. Got my results. Let's talk after supper. Keisha appeared from the kitchen. My daughter-in-law, 38, born in Pickering, raised in Ajax, educated at York University. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Sharp cheekbones, perfect braids, always dressed like she was about to be photographed. She'd been good to me once, in the beginning. Dinner's in 20, she said. Didn't ask about the appointment. We sat around the table. Keisha had made jerk chicken with rice and peas and steamed callaloo. It was good. She was a good cook, always had been. I waited until everyone was eating before I spoke. The nephrologist gave me the results today, I said. I have chronic kidney disease, stage 3. Forks stopped. Zara looked at me with wide eyes. Miles kept eating. Too young to understand. Kidney disease. Terence's voice went up. Mom, that sounds bad. It sounds worse than it is. It's manageable with medication and diet. Dr. Adeyemi said with proper care, I could have 20+ years ahead of me. It's not the end. You'll just have to follow the doctor's instructions, Keisha said. Then she looked at Terence. A quick glance, barely a second. The kind you're not supposed to notice. Are you going to be okay, Grandma? Zara asked quietly. I'm going to be just fine, sweetheart. So, Keisha said. Terence, did you hear back about the Markham project? Just like that. Channel changed. I finished my chicken, excused myself, retreated to my room, the smallest room in the house, originally a walk-in storage closet off the basement, that Terence had converted by putting in drywall and a narrow window. It had a single bed, a small dresser, and barely enough room to turn around. Keisha's home gym equipment was still stacked in one corner, because there was nowhere else to put it. I pulled the cash envelope from my drawer. $2,800 bills. $2,800. I'd been handing these over 30 months. $84,000 in cash, given like rent, like a toll for existing in their house. I found Terence in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. This month's contribution, I said, holding out the envelope. He took it with one hand without looking inside, slid it into his pocket. Thanks, Mom. No eye contact, no gratitude. 30 months ago, when I'd started, he protested, Mom, you don't have to. Are you sure? This is too much. Now the money disappeared into his pocket like a coin into a parking meter. I went back to my room. And that's when I heard them. The walls down there were thin. Cheap drywall, no insulation between studs. I could hear pipes, footsteps, the furnace kicking on. And voices. Keisha's came through first, sharp and rising. "We need to talk about your mother, Terence. Lower your voice. The kids are asleep. I'm done whispering about this. She told us she has kidney disease. Do you know what that means? It means it gets worse. It means dialysis eventually, maybe a transplant. It means appointments and medications and special meals and me driving her to the hospital 3 times a week. We don't know that it'll. Yes, we do. My uncle had the same thing. It took over his whole family's life. I'm not doing that. I'm 38 years old. I have a career, 2 children, and a house that already feels too small. Your mother needs to find her own arrangement. She pays us $2,800 a month. $2,800. Our mortgage is $4,200. Property tax, utilities, groceries, her special foods. Now she's barely covering a third of what she costs us. And now she's going to cost more. A lot more. Silence. Then Keisha again, colder now. Tell her this week. Tell her she needs to find her own place. An apartment, a senior's residence. I don't care. I want her out by the end of the month. I waited for my son to say something, to defend me, to say that's my mother. She gave us $90,000. She moved in here because we asked her to. We'll figure it out together. Instead, okay, I'll talk to her tomorrow. I stood in the dark of that converted closet and let the words settle into my bones. Burden. Costs. Out by the end of the month. I didn't sleep. I sat at my laptop and wrote 2 emails. The first went to Jacqueline Osei. Jacqueline had been my lawyer for 15 years. She'd handled the property sales, Winston's estate, everything. A Ghanaian Canadian woman in her 50s, graduate of Osgood Hall, calm as stone and twice as hard when she needed to be. Jacqueline, I need an appointment first thing tomorrow morning. It's about my living situation, my will, and I'll need a referral to a real estate agent who can handle a fast cash purchase. D. The second went to Nigel at the bank. Nigel, I'll need approximately $850,000 transferred from my investment accounts to my checking account by end of week. I'm making a cash offer on a property. Please call me to discuss which holdings to liquidate with the least tax impact. D. Moreau. Then I opened Realtor.car. Toronto waterfront, condos and townhomes, $600,000 to $900,000. The screen filled with listings. Harbourfront, Liberty Village, the Distillery District, Mimico Waterfront, each one more beautiful than the room I'd been sleeping in for 2.5 years. By 6:00 a.m., Jacqueline had replied, "Come at 9, coffee will be ready. J." I showered, dressed carefully. Black trousers, a cream blouse, the gold earrings Winston had given me for our 25th anniversary. I wanted to look like myself, not the diminished version I'd been performing for 30 months. Terence was in the kitchen at 7:15, making coffee for his commute. He looked up when I walked in. "Mom, you're up early. Couldn't sleep." "Terence, I heard you and Keisha last night, through the walls." His face went grey. "Mom, she didn't." "Don't, it's fine. She's right. It would be better for everyone if I had my own place. For my health, for your family. That's not what. I'll be out by this afternoon. I've already made arrangements." I left him standing there with his travel mug and his guilt and walked out the front door. At 9 a.m., I sat in Jacqueline's office on University Avenue, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of Queen's Park, degrees from Osgood and the University of Ghana on the walls, a shelf of legal text that she'd actually read. I told her everything, the diagnosis, the dinner, the conversation through the walls, my decision. "And they still don't know about the money," she said. "Nobody does, except you and Nigel. Your daughter-in-law thinks you're broke. My daughter-in-law thinks I'm a burden she can schedule for disposal." Jacqueline leaned back. What do you want, Dee? I want to buy a home. Cash. I want to change my will, and I want them to understand exactly what they threw away. Revenge? Consequences, I said. There's a difference. Then let's get to work. I changed the will that morning. Previously, Terence was sole beneficiary of everything, nearly $10 million. New terms, $1.5 million in trust for Zara and Miles, accessible at age 25. $6 million to charities, the Black Business and Professional Association, scholarships through the Canadian Caribbean Association, the Jamaican Canadian Association Community Fund, the Daily Bread Food Bank, where Winston and I used to volunteer every Thanksgiving. For Terence and Keisha combined, $150,000. Total. That's a significant reduction, Jacqueline said. That's the cost of what they did. Jacqueline referred me to a real estate agent, Pamela Cross, who specialized in waterfront properties. Within 3 days, Pamela showed me 7 units. The 6th was perfect. A 2-bedroom plus den condo at the foot of Bathurst Street on Queen's Quay in a building overlooking Lake Ontario. 1,400 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A balcony where you could watch the ferries cross to the Toronto Islands. The unit had been staged, but the sellers, a couple relocating to Victoria, were motivated. $775,000, Pamela said. With a cash offer, we could close in 2 weeks. Make it 10 days. On March 21st, 2025, I signed the purchase agreement. On March 31st, I received the keys. Nigel had transferred the funds. I wired $775,000 to the lawyer's trust account. The rest covered land transfer tax, legal fees, furnishings. I stood in my new living room, 11 floors up, Lake Ontario stretching to the horizon like a promise. For 10 days, nothing. Terence sent one text the day I left. Hope you're settling in, Mom. Let us know if you need anything. 15 words. I didn't respond. On April 10th, Jacqueline made the call. She called Terence at his office. Asked him to come in person. At 2 p.m., he sat across from her mahogany desk while she slid documents toward him one at a time. RBC Dominion Securities Portfolio Statement. Account holder, Dolores Marie Moreau. Balance, $9,014.27.46. Property deed, Queens Quay West. Purchase price, $775,000. Paid in full. Tax records from the 2021 sale of Moreau Property Holdings. $11.2 million. Bank statements. Dividend income. Bond yields. Growth charts. Jacqueline told me later that Terence sat there for a full 2 minutes without speaking, just staring. But she was living in our basement, he finally said. She gave us cash every month because she couldn't afford her own place. Your mother has never needed financial assistance, Jacqueline replied. Those monthly payments were her choice. Then the final piece. Previously, you were designated as sole beneficiary of your mother's entire estate. She's asked me to inform you that this arrangement has been revised. She'll be in touch when she's ready. Terence called Keisha from the parking lot. I know because he left me a voicemail 20 minutes later, his voice shaking. Mom, please call me. I just came from your lawyer's office. I had no idea. $9 million, Mom. $9 million. We threw you out and you had $9 million. Keisha is, well, please, Mom, please call. I listened to it once, then deleted it. They called me 43 times that week. I let every call go to voicemail. The texts came in waves. Keisha, 4:15 p.m. Mom, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Please let us explain. Terence, 6:30 p.m. The kids miss you. Can we come see you this weekend? Keisha, 9:45 p.m. I understand if you hate me. I deserve it. But please don't shut Terence out. He loves you. I read each one. Responded to none. 1 week later, a registered letter arrived at 74 Willow Crest Drive. Jacqueline had drafted it on firm letterhead. Demand for repayment. The $90,000 down payment gift from 3 years ago had never been a gift. Terence had signed a promissory note at the time, which Jacqueline had prepared as standard practice. I told him it was just paperwork for CRA purposes, nothing to worry about. He'd signed without reading. $90,000 principal plus 4%, annual interest compounded over 3 years. Total owing $101,243.78. Due in full within 60 days. Secured against the property at 74 Willowcrest Drive. Failure to pay would result in the registration of a lien and potential power of sale proceedings. Terence called within the hour. "Mom, we can't pay $100,000. We don't have it. The mortgage, the kids' school, Keisha's car payment, we're stretched as it is." "You have 60 days," I said. "I suggest you start planning." "Mom, please. You wanted the sick old woman out of your house. She's out. Now settle your debts." I hung up. They tried. Lord, they tried. I knew through Jacqueline, who'd hired a forensic accountant to document their financial situation for the legal record. Their combined savings, $14,000. Terrence's salary after tax and deductions, roughly $6,800 per month. Keisha's part-time income from her online boutique, maybe $1,800 on a good month. Monthly expenses, $4,200 mortgage, $650 property tax installment, $600 car lease, $1,200 private school fees, $400 insurance, $900 groceries, $350 utilities, plus subscriptions, memberships, and a $200 a month storage unit that I later learned held designer furniture they'd bought on credit. They were spending more than they earned every single month, floating on a $40,000 home equity line of credit that was nearly maxed. They started selling. Keisha's handbag collection went first, the Louis Vuitton tote, the Louis Vuitton tete, the Coach crossbody, the Kate Spade wallet, Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, Poshmark. Total $2,900 for bags that had cost $8,000 new. The Peloton bike, used 11 times, $400. Terrence's golf clubs, $900. The kids' old electronics, furniture from the guest room, kitchen appliances, still in boxes. By week 4, they'd scraped together $38,000. Added to savings, $52,000. Still $49,000 short. Then Keisha found out about the line of credit. Terrence had been managing their finances online, keeping Keisha away from the details. When they needed to calculate their exact debt-to-income ratio for a personal loan application at TD, Keisha insisted on seeing everything. That's when she discovered the HELOC was at $38,700, nearly all cash advances, and a credit card she didn't know existed with $22,000 on it. "Where did $60,000 go?" she screamed. I heard about the fight from 3 sources within a week. Online poker. Terrence had been gambling on PokerStars for 18 months. Losses totaling roughly $55,000, hidden across multiple accounts and credit products. I'd known for 2 years. Jacqueline had discovered it during a routine credit check when we were updating my estate documents. I'd said nothing. I could have helped, could have intervened. But they'd never asked, never sat down with me and said, "We're in trouble, we need guidance." They'd just taken my $2,800 every month and assumed I was too old and out of touch to notice anything. Keisha tried calling her parents in Pickering. Her mother wired $12,000 with a lecture that burned through the phone. "You put that woman out when she was sick, and now you're calling me for money? Your father and I raised you better than this, Keisha." The community found out, the way communities always do. It started at my hair salon, Natural Roots on Eglinton West, where my stylist, Monique, asked about my new place. I told her the highlights. Waterfront condo, cash purchase, Lakeview. She asked how I'd afforded it. I told her the rest. By Sunday, it had spread through New Covenant Baptist Church on James Street, where I'd been a member for 28 years, through the West Indian Women's Business Network, through the parents at Zara's school. Keisha's phone buzzed with messages from women she barely spoke to anymore. Heard what happened with Terence's mother. Is it true Dee bought a condo on the waterfront? Girla, your mother-in-law has millions and you kicked her out. She deleted her Instagram. Then her Facebook. Social silence. On April 28, Zara called me, 9 years old, using Terence's phone while her parents argued downstairs. Grand man, why don't you come over anymore? Did Miles and I do something bad? My heart broke clean in half. No, my love. You and Miles are perfect. You did nothing wrong. Then why? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that take time to fix. Your mama and daddy and I are working through some things. Can I still see you? Always. This Saturday I'll pick you up. We'll go to that crêpe place on Queen Street you like. Just the three of us. With Nutella? All the Nutella you want. After she hung up, I sat in my living room watching the ferry lights cross the harbour, and I asked Winston's photograph on the mantel, am I doing the right thing, or am I just being cruel? I could almost hear him. Dee, you're teaching them what we always believed. Actions have consequences. That's not cruelty. That's love doing hard work. I texted Jacqueline, Saturday creeps with the grandkids, set up the family meeting. Final phase. The meeting happened at New Covenant Baptist on a Saturday in late May. Reverend Chambers had offered the church fellowship hall. 20 people came. Extended family, friends from church, women from my old business network, people who'd known Winston and me for decades. Terence and Keisha arrived last. They looked diminished. Terence had lost weight. Keisha's braids were growing out, unstyled. They held hands like people bracing for impact. Terence spoke first. His voice shook, but he pushed through. 2 months ago, my mother received a serious medical diagnosis. She came home and told us she had kidney disease. Instead of supporting her, instead of making sure she had everything she needed, my wife and I decided she was an inconvenience. Keisha said she wanted my mother gone, and I agreed. I didn't fight for her. I didn't stand up. I just said okay. He paused. What we didn't know was that my mother had spent 30 months testing us. She'd been giving us money she didn't need to give, living in a room she didn't need to live in, to see if we loved her for who she was or for what she could provide. And we showed her exactly who we were. Keisha spoke next, tears running freely. I called my mother-in-law a burden. I calculated her cost to a household like she was a line item on a spreadsheet. I forgot that she gave us $90,000 to buy our home. I forgot that she moved in because we asked her to, because we said we wanted her close to the grandchildren. I forgot everything that mattered and remembered only what was convenient. The room was silent. Reverend Chambers looked at me. Sister Dee, I stood. I accept your words, I said. But words are easy. What matters now is what you do with them. I handed Terence a document, the settlement terms. Financial outstanding debt reduced to $60,000, the amount already gathered through selling and borrowing, remaining $41,243.78 forgiven, repayment $800 per month for 75 months, interest-free, no further financial support of any kind. Personal, mandatory family counseling, weekly, minimum 6 months. Supervised grandchildren visits on my schedule and at my home for the first 6 months. 50 hours of volunteer work, each at a senior's care home, to understand elder dignity. Terence to attend Gandra's Anonymous, minimum 1 year. Estate, Zara and Miles, $1.5 million in trust, accessible at 25. Charities, $6 million. Terence and Keisha combined, $150,000. Payable only after 5 years of demonstrated, sustained change. Terence read the estate section and his face crumbled. $150,000 from almost $10 million. That's the cost of what you did, I said. But it's more than you'd get if I left everything to the Daily Bread Food Bank, which I considered. They signed. Reverend Chambers and Jacqueline witnessed. Keisha looked at me through swollen eyes. Will you ever forgive us? Really forgive us? Forgiveness isn't a switch, I said. It's a road. Right now, I've forgiven you enough to give you this chance. Whether I forgive you enough to fully trust you again depends entirely on you. October 2025. Saturday crepes had become sacred. Every week, 10 a.m., I picked up Zara and Miles from Willowcrest Drive. We went to the little French cafe on Queen West. Nutella crepes for them, lemon and sugar for me, hot chocolate with whipped cream. Always. Grandman, are you going to live forever? Miles asked one morning, chocolate on his chin. Nobody lives forever, Moncho. But I plan to be around for a very long time. But I plan to be around for a very long time. Through Jacqueline's updates, I tracked their progress. Counseling, attending every Tuesday. Their therapist reported genuine engagement, not performance. Terence, 5 months clean from gambling, attending GA meetings at a church in Scarborough twice a week. Got a raise at work. Keisha, deleted all social media permanently. Started volunteering at a seniors centre in North York. Came home one evening and told Terence, I fed a 90-year-old woman lunch today who reminded me of your mother, and I cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes. They'd pulled Zara from private school and enrolled her in the public school down the street. Sold the leased SUV, bought a used Corolla, cooking at home every night. Monthly payments arriving on time every time. The community noticed. They're doing the work, Sister Beatrice from church told me after service one Sunday. Not just talking, actually changing. In November, I called Jacqueline, update the will, increase their share to $400,000. Are you sure? It's only been 6 months. It's not about forgiveness yet. It's about acknowledging effort. They're trying, really trying. And I want them to know I see it, eventually, when the time is right. And the rest still goes to the grandchildren and the charities. Terence doesn't need millions. He needs to rebuild his character. The money is a safety net, not a reward. 1 year later, March 2026, I hosted dinner at my condo for the first time. Zara and Miles ran from room to room, faces pressed against the windows, watching a ferry cross the harbor. Grandmaman, you live in the sky. I live by the water, my love, but it feels like the sky sometimes. Terence helped me set the table. He'd learned to cook properly, not just barbecue. He'd brought oxtail stew, Winston's recipe, the one I'd taught him years ago, and he'd never bothered to make until now. I used Scotch bonnet this time, he said. Hope it's right. Keisha brought a simple bouquet from the St. Lawrence market. For your table, Mom. First time she'd called me Mom in over a year. During dinner, Terence said quietly, I'm 10 months clean. Keisha and I are actually saving money now, real savings, and resparked for the kids, not for appearances. Keisha added, I've been volunteering at the senior center 3 times a week now, not because the agreement requires it, because I want to. Those women teach me something every time I walk in. I'm proud of you both, I said, and I meant it. After they left, the kids hugging me so tight I could barely breathe, promising they'd see me Saturday for crepes, I stood on my balcony watching the city lights reflect off the water. My phone buzzed. Nigel from the bank. D, confirming our dinner Thursday. 7:30 at Canoe. I smiled. Nigel and I had been seeing each other casually for a few months. Nothing serious yet. Just 2 people in their 60s who'd both lost spouses and found they could still laugh over a good meal. 7:30 is perfect. I sat in my favorite chair, the one Winston and I had bought at an antique shop in Stratford 30 years ago, the one I'd kept in storage all that time, waiting. His photograph sat on the side table, the one from our trip to Peggy's Cove in 2015, him squinting into the Atlantic wind, grinning like a boy. We did it, Win, I whispered. We built something real, and now Terence is learning what that means. I thought about the past year, the diagnosis, the betrayal, the silence, the reckoning, and then the slow, difficult, honest rebuilding. I was 65 now. My kidneys were stable with medication. Dr. Adeyemi said I was doing better than projected. Could have another 25 good years if I kept up the work. 25 years to run the Moreau Community Fund I'd established through the Toronto Foundation. 25 years to watch Zara and Miles grow up. 25 years to see what this thing with Nigel might become. 25 years of living on my own terms, in my own home, with my own money, with boundaries that protected my dignity, and a door left open just enough for people who'd earned their way back through. The greatest lesson wasn't punishment. It was this: I had the power to destroy them completely, and I chose mercy instead. Not cheap mercy, earned mercy. Conditional, monitored, verified mercy. The kind that says, I love you enough to hold you accountable, and I respect myself enough to never let you treat me that way again. The lake was dark now, just the ferry lights moving across the water and the CN Tower glowing red against the clouds. Somewhere in North York, Keisha was putting the children to bed, reading to them, teaching them things about family and respect that she'd had to learn the hard way. Somewhere in that same house, Terence was reviewing their budget, making sure the 800 Tama payment would clear on time, proving through consistency that a person can change if the cost of staying the same becomes high enough. And here in my condo on Queen's Quay, 11 floors above the water Winston and I used to walk beside on summer evenings, I sat in peace. Healthy enough, wealthy enough, loved enough, surrounded by beauty I'd earned through 30 years of hard work and smart decisions, and a marriage that taught me what real partnership looks like. The sick old woman they'd wanted gone wasn't gone at all. She was right here, watching the lights on the lake, planning Saturday creeps with her grandbabies, and living proof that at 65 you can start over, set boundaries, demand respect, and still leave the door open for the people you love if they do the work to walk back through it.